this is my mommy's post and welcome back. Today I have a special guest. It is Jessica from Babble Mama Babble, and I have her on today. I am going to ask her a couple questions and just talk about motherhood through her and how her journey has been so far. So I'm really excited to have her on today. So please just hang on tight and we will start our Q&A shortly. So, hi Jessica, how are you? Thank you for taking your time to meet with me today. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. So first question is, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm 25 and I have two kids. I have a 2-year-old daughter, Lily, and I have a 2.5-month-old son named JJ. And I stay at home right now. I graduated college a couple years ago, and that's really it for right now.
Okay, so you have your social media is it Babble Mama Babble?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and that's your social media handle all across all your social media. So tell me the inspiration behind your social media.
I started a blog, a mom blog, and for the life of me, I could not think of a neat name for it. So I came up with Babble Mama Babble after a lot of trying to figure that out. But my social media is mainly just going back to my blog and what I post and stuff. But my blog is about just like moms and postpartum and having like babies and toddlers and just little things about my life and what I've learned along the way.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of similar to like my inspiration. I created my mommy's post so that I can go ahead and create a community, mom community, a safe space, and just spread as much knowledge as I can. And obviously collaborate with mothers such as yourself, and then try as hard as possible to kind of just spread whatever information and knowledge that we have to offer just across the board. My personal experience, I went through motherhood and I realized there's a lot of information that mothers don't have.
Yeah.
So especially as a first-time mom, I am a first-time mom. I only have one baby boy, and he's about 16 months. So I'm pretty new to this mom game. And I think upon conception is when you start obviously becoming a mom, and you are going through the motions of pregnancy, and everything kind of just falls on your lap. Whether you were going to school or you had a career or whatever your life was prior to conception, it all kind of flips upside down from that moment. And I think that's something that perhaps is not talked about. And I think the one main misconception is that people or society believe that moms all across the board have that support. And I feel like that's unnecessarily true. Not a lot of women have, women support in their life. They don't have perhaps a mom or sisters or friends or whatever it is, a community that they can kind of lean on and that's safe, and that they can ask questions, because that's kind of what I found myself doing. I just found myself, Googling, and I don't even want to kind of dive into like the OBGYN experiences that all sorts of moms have experiences with, and myself too. Like, I don't know if you had a similar experience, because I've been talking to all sorts of moms, and they pretty much feel like their OBGYN experience is very transactional versus informational.
Yeah, I only have, there's like one OB in my office that I just really like because I never feel like rushed, or, she actually sits there and kind of talks to me. So I always try to like get her, but they like you to see like everyone because you never know who's going to be on call. So I always try to get her, but usually it's very like, okay, this is good, okay, like see you next time.
Right. And you're left like, okay, well, I have all sorts of weird questions that, like maybe you don't feel like you're comfortable asking, or you find yourself like on Google. So it's definitely an adventure to be a mom. Like, I gone through a lot of things in my life, but once I became a mom, it was just like, oh my God, this is so wild. Okay, so my third question is, what are your proudest moments as a mom?
Well, for one, like at the very beginning when I was a mom, I was finishing college. So I had I was pregnant all through my senior year of college, and then I had my daughter 2 weeks before finals. And then I went back like immediately after I had her because I had to go back for finals and study. But that like in me was a very problem because I ended up graduating and I graduated with honors, so it was tough that I did it. But as being a mom, I don't know, I just love seeing them grow, and I don't know, just taking care of them makes me happy. I was really proud when my daughter said mama first. It's her first word because usually dada, but
Yeah.
said mama, so I was proud there. I don't know, just like getting through like labor and birth and still like being there for my kids every day and getting up and doing it because that can be hard for like a lot of people, and I'm doing it, so that in general just makes me happy and proud.
Do you want to talk about your labor experience and your birth experience?
Yeah. So with my daughter, I was induced both times. My daughter, I was so miserable that last month. I was like swollen and gross, and
I'm sorry, is she your first or your second?
yeah, she was my first. She was born in 2018. So I was just miserable and swollen, and every time they checked me for like a month, I wasn't progressing. I was like at 1 centimeter, but she was like all the way down there, and she was like, there was so much pressure, and I was like completely effaced, but I just would not dilate at all, so they just went ahead and induced me because I was so miserable. But with her, it was pretty smooth. I didn't get fully induced. I took Cytotec, so they gave me like my first pill, and then Cytotec is it's to help you dilate. They can like insert it vaginally or you can take it orally, and they just gave me mine orally because I was already so effaced. So I took my first pill at like 7:30 p.m., something like that, and you take them every 4 hours, and they give you 4 pills, and then if that doesn't work, they start you on Pitocin. So after the first pill, I immediately started having contractions. They were very mild, but I think it was just like that little bit I needed just to kind of kick start things. I had my first pill, and they were still really mild at the 4-hour mark, so they gave me the second pill, and after that, they didn't have to do anything else because I was going. So I never had to get Pitocin with my daughter, but I had her, my water broke at 1:15 that morning by itself, so they didn't have to break my water. And then I woke up because I was sleeping, so I had an epidural. And the epidural went great with her. And then I was sleeping because I was tired. It was the middle of the night. So then at like 7:30 in the morning, I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like she's falling out of me. Like just out of nowhere. I was like, oh my gosh, this is different. Something's different. And my mom and my parents were waiting in the waiting room because we just wanted it to be me and my husband in the labor room. And my husband was sleeping. I couldn't wake him up, and I obviously couldn't get up. I had an epidural. So I called my mom, and I was like, Mom, I think she's falling out. I don't know what to do. I can't get anybody, like, help. So she came in there, and I, like, explained it, because she was like, what are you talking about? So she came in there, and I was like, Mom, I feel like if I even were to try to push right now, she'd pop out. Like I need help. So my mom went over there and got my husband and was like, wake up. And he was like, and he ran out in the hall and got a nurse, and she was like, okay, let me check you. And she checked, and she was like, oh, yep, the head's right there. And I was like, okay. And she was like, she went ahead and like called my OB, which she happened to be in the hospital, thank God. But she called my OB, and she's like, let's do like, a couple practice pushes. And she's like, a lot of first time moms don't know how to push correctly and stuff, so let's just talk about that. So I was like, okay, I feel like I need to push. Like, can I just try? She's like, yeah, go ahead and try. And she's like, if you're doing something, like wrong, I'll tell you. I was like, okay. So I pushed, and she was like, oh, that's a good push. And she was like, okay, push one more time. And I pushed again. She's like, okay, stop. The head's coming out. I gotta go get the OB. I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, kind of panicking, because it was like, my first time I was like, so like, is our head hanging out? Like, what's going on? But everyone rushed in there really fast. I only had to push for 15 minutes, and she was here. Yeah, the only thing was that her cord was wrapped around her. So during the night, they kept having to like flip me every 30 minutes with the peanut ball, because they're trying to get her out. But her heart rate was going down with every contraction. So they knew it was wrapped around her, but like she was still doing good. So they knew it wasn't like, okay, we need to get her out right now. But they wanted to speed up the process. So they used the peanut ball all night, but that it worked, and she
Oh.
came out. It was wrapped around her shoulder.
Oh, okay, good.
So it wasn't like, oh gosh, but she just unwrapped it when she came out, and she was good.
That is so, I know. I'm going to circle back to the pushing. I remember like when I was going through labor and the doctor was like, okay, push. And I'm like, first of all, I had the epidural. So, you know, in the epidural, you lose sensation, you know, your hip down. And so I was like, I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, okay, I'll push, but I don't know what I was doing. So I remember like, I pushed for like an hour and a half because like, I just didn't know like what to do. And finally, like towards the like last half hour, last 15 minutes, my body was like, oh, okay, now I understand what you're saying. And then it just happened. But it took a while because I was like, first of all, you know, you don't have sensation, and then it's just like, I don't know what I'm doing.
I think it helped me a lot. I was with one of my friends when she had both of her kids, so I like watched her push, and I've seen it ahead of time. So I guess like maybe that helped me kind of like, okay, this is what she did, so that's what I should do type thing.
Yeah.
It definitely helped.
I didn't. I refused to watch any videos before. I was already panicking. I was like, I refuse. No, not watching anything.
I just happened to, she asked me to be in the room with both of her kids because I'm her kid's godmother. So I was there like the first time. I was like, oh my gosh, like. But then the second time I was like, okay. And the second time I was like, I think a month or two pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't telling anybody yet, but I had to tell her because I was like, girl, I need to sit down while you're, you know, having your contractions because I am pregnant and nauseous.
Yeah. The first trimester is.
Yeah, brutal. But so I had seen 2 births before I had given birth, so I think that kind of helped me. Like, okay, you know, they give you the epidural around this time, and you know, this is what happens when like you're pushing because there were so many people in there when you push, and so I think that kind of helped me because I think I'm more of a visual learner. So if somebody's like push, I'm like, what?
That's exactly my reaction. I was like, what? I don't know. Like, what do you mean push? I was like attempting, like I was, you know, following their instructions, but like it's hard when you have the epidural because obviously you don't have any sensation, like no control. So you're just pushing, like you don't really know like where to put the pressure when you're pushing, like what are you using your core muscles? Like it was like strange until like I think, you know, most importantly, you listen to your body. Like in your situation, you knew you were ready to push. So I think like, you know, listening to your body and kind of being in tune with your body is just obviously the most, you know, best advice that you can kind of go with because it's your body. Your body's like, you're about to give birth. I had my contractions around like 3 o'clock in the morning. So I waited, you know how you have to like count and then if they get closer, you're like, okay, you have to call, you know, doctor. So from 3 to 7 a.m. I waited for my contractions to get closer. And so around 7 a.m. in the morning, I called and they said, okay, come in. But I came in, they were like, oh, you're about like 2 or 3 centimeters dilated. So then the OBGYN told me to go home, have breakfast because they're not going to feed you, and then come back. So in my scenario, like the hospital was only 5 minutes away from where we lived. Yeah. So it worked out. But when I got home, I did eat breakfast, but then my contractions got worse. And I was like on the floor crying. And I remember like at 9 a.m. or around 10 a.m., I was telling my husband, like, I have to go back. I can't take it anymore. So we ended up going back and they gave me the epidural right away. So, but then I didn't give birth until 11:30 at night. So you want to talk about your second birth?
I got induced same, but I went at 8 in the morning because I was already 2 centimeters dilated. But I got induced at 39 weeks because I had gestational diabetes with my second. It was very like borderline the whole time. They make you check your blood 3 times a day or 4 times a day, and it was literally never high, but but I just didn't pass the test, so yes, I had it. But I got induced at 39 weeks, and another reason they induced me is because my amniotic fluid was a little low, so they kept having to check it, and they were like, the closer you get to 40 weeks, it's just going to keep getting lower, so let's just go ahead and schedule you for an induction. So it's like, okay, I've done it before. But this time they did Pitocin because I was already at 2 centimeters, and it was my second birthing experience. So They did Pitocin, and they usually only go up to like 20. I don't know, is it like cc's or something? I don't know. But for me, they had to go up to 28 because it was not working. I started having contractions around like 18, but it just still wasn't like enough. But I was in labor with him for, I think, like 14 and a half hours. Where with my daughter, it was, I think, 12.
Wow.
So the second time was longer. It's usually the opposite. But with him, he was good. Like, he didn't have anything weird. Like with my daughter, her heart rate kept dropping. He was good. But they gave me the epidural, and it didn't work. And so I guess like they had a wet tap with me, which I guess is pretty rare. And that means like the spinal fluid like came back up to the like catheter thing. So they said, okay, this is what we usually do when we do C-sections. So we're just gonna give you really, really low dose and see like how that goes. So I was like, okay, like sure, but it didn't work. So and they stuck me like 3 different times trying to get it right, and it just was not working. So I was in full labor at that point, and they didn't want to stick me anymore because, you know, I was in like super hardcore labor. So they were just trying to get what they had in me like to work. And so they were like flipping me each way, trying to get like the fluid to kind of go down me, because I could still feel everything. I could have gotten up and walked if they would have let me. There was nothing going on. There was only one spot that was numb, and it was like my upper thigh and like this big of a circle. And it was just that one spot. I was like, yeah, I was like, that's not gonna help. It doesn't do anything at all. So they were like, okay, well, since obviously we didn't do it the way that we originally thought, like the C-section way, because I guess like when they do it that way, you're supposed to be like super numb. Obviously, I think when you have a C-section, they like cut you open and stuff, and you don't really feel all that much. So they thought they had done it that way because I got the spinal fluid back up, but they didn't. So then they were like, okay, let's just treat this like a regular epidural. But in that, they said the only like things that you should be concerned about is that if it is a wet tap and we did go in deep enough, it could cause your lungs to stop working and you could be intubated. And then I had to be rushed in for emergency C-section. So I was like, don't know if I want to do that. I think I'm good where I'm at.
Right.
But I talked to my husband for a while, and he was furious because, I mean, he hated seeing me in that much pain compared to like my birth with my daughter versus with my son. And we decided that we were going to try the epidural way, but just like take it really slow. So if I started feeling any sort of like numbness up like in my upper part of my body, that we would just stop it, take it out, and that would be that. So we did it really, really slow. I could still pretty much feel everything. I could move my legs and toes and stuff, but it kind of just took the edge off just a little bit. And then he was ready to come out. So I pushed him out, and I only had to push 3 times. He came out super fast too. But I felt all of that because I was not really numbed. But my recovery was so much faster with him, actually, than with my daughter. And I don't know if it has something to do with not having like the full effect of the epidural, or if it was because it was my second. I don't know. But yeah, that one was a little more.
Are you talking about like postpartum, or are you talking about
postpartum? Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I wonder if it's because it is your second.
Yeah. Because I heard like some people say with like epidurals, it took them longer to like kind of recover, and then some people were like, oh, you know, epidurals didn't affect anything. So I don't know. But
it took me a long time to recover. It took me, you know, like how doctors give you that 6 weeks mark. So when I went to my 6 weeks postpartum appointment, they just, you know, they look at your stitches and see if everything's healed, and obviously they talk to you about birth control. So they just, you know, said, oh, your stitches look good and you're healing good. Okay, but then I didn't feel good. Like I think it took me a long time to heal. Like, you know, do you know like anything about the pelvic floor muscle
Yeah.
and all of that. So I had to go, get therapy because of that. And I think I just had a really hard time recovering. It took me a long time to recover. And it does take a toll on you because you think in your mind as a first-time mom that you are going to heal right away after your 6 weeks. That doesn't happen.
No, that was how I was with my daughter. I tore with my daughter.
Yeah.
I tore in 2 different spots. One was only a 1st degree and one was a 2nd degree.
Mm-hmm.
But the 1st degree was like pretty okay, and the 2nd degree one took a while to heal.
Mm-hmm.
But also with my son, I didn't tear at all. So that played a big part into my recovery.
Good. That's good to know because, in the future, once I have my 2nd child, that's good to know because I had I think that's like the only thing outside of like, pregnancy and just pregnancy just being tough overall. The postpartum part was just, I would take the pregnancy over the postpartum healing any day because it took so long and I breastfed. So, I was dealing with that too, when you first breastfeed and you're, it took a while to just.
It's a lot.
It does. It just takes a lot. And you are, overall, like you are also taking care of a brand new newborn baby, human being as a first-time mom. So there's like all these things that mothers go through in addition to taking care of and keeping a newborn alive. Like just, so it is, and like after you went through all of that, it's just like, wow, how do I guess like, I don't know if I didn't ask any questions because I wasn't a mom or I didn't care or wasn't even involved in that world. My mom personally had 8 kids. But she made it look so effortlessly.
Yeah. Like
she just was like, oh, she was just popping out babies. I'm the 4th child. So it was like, I saw 4, born right after me and she was just like pregnant, popping out babies, going on the mall, going, after, it's just like, she made it look so effortlessly. She was breastfeeding, blah, blah. And I guess like I had that thought, like it was just gonna be like that. I don't know. I guess I just don't know if mothers like, maybe perhaps A, they do have it easy, or B, they just don't talk about it because it's something that you don't talk about. Okay, so what are some of the most challenging moments as a mom?
Let's see. I think definitely when you're trying to figure out breastfeeding is a hard stage to go through because some moms end up not being able to, or their milk doesn't come in, or the baby doesn't latch, and it's just hard to figure out like, okay, like can I not breastfeed because of my baby, or can I not breastfeed because of something like with me? And it takes a while to kind of figure it out and balance all of that. But I think that has been the hardest for me. And then,
were you able to be successful?
Yeah, with my daughter, I did strictly formula. I actually have epilepsy, so my medicine back then was a lot higher, and I could breastfeed on that medicine, but I just didn't really want to expose her to that an additional year longer than she needed to. So I decided to do formula with her. But I'm on a lower dose now, so with my son I am. So this is my first time breastfeeding right now. But it's been good. At first it was confusing trying to figure out is it because he had a really weak latch, and I couldn't figure out okay, does he have a tie? Is it something with me? There was just, but we figured it out kind of.
Are you full-time breastfeeding now?
Yeah, I'm still breastfeeding. I think me and his pediatrician thinks he might have a tongue tie, but I can't get him in anywhere because of all this coronavirus stuff. So we're just kind of waiting. But
have you had any clogged milk ducts? I heard that was an indication of that.
I haven't yet, but I've only been breastfeeding for 2.5 months, so.
That's good. That's good. Full time.
Yep.
Oh, that's great.
I pump in the mornings and at night before I go to bed. I used to, when he was a newborn, I used to wake up and pump at night too because I wasn't regulated yet.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But I pump in the morning and at night, and I use the Haka Yeah, I use that. So I save up some milk and freeze it, and then I also make like a bottle to keep in the fridge. My husband can wake up with my son at night and do one of
The feedings.
but he's been sleeping through the night already.
Oh,
So
good.
I know.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
My kid's been very good with sleeping. I don't know how I lucked out. My daughter was super easy, slept through the night since like day one. So I was like, okay, that means my second, he's gonna be like up all hours of the night. Like it's gonna be my payback for having such a like a good sleeper. And at first he woke up a couple times at night, but he sleeps from 10 p.m. to like 7 a.m.
Wow, that is amazing. It took my baby until it was a year. He was a year and 1 month. That's when I stopped breastfeeding him. So I breastfed for that long, for 13 months. And it wasn't until I stopped breastfeeding him when he slept through the night. So I didn't sleep for 13 months. And I was like a zombie walking. I had a hard time sleeping. So yeah, breastfeeding is definitely a problem, proud moments for a lot of moms. I know it's a very sensitive subject because I think naturally we are under this disposition of all moms could breastfeed. And some moms just opt out, and that's okay because sometimes that's part of their lifestyle or part of their discretion, and that's okay, obviously. And like in your scenario, you couldn't breastfeed because of your medication. So everybody's tailored to their own specific lifestyle, and whichever way that goes. So I, for example, saw my mom breastfeed, and I thought I dedicated myself to say, like, okay, I want to breastfeed. And luckily for me, when I decided to breastfeed while I was pregnant, my hospital had referred me to a breastfeeding consultant, and it was free, and she had a plethora of information, and she did workshops with us, and she just kind of broke it down to to the science. And I really thank her a lot because she was very helpful, gave a lot of resourceful information. She also was like, after I gave birth, she was always in contact with me, always wanting to check up on me, give me pointers and all that stuff. So a lot of the things that I went through after he was born, and I kind of just remember all the information that she had given me, and I was able to navigate breastfeeding through her. But had I not produced or he wasn't a good latcher, I think I would have struggled. I think he was a good latcher, but I had like one breast that was good and the other one wasn't performing well. So like it was like that, and I think that one breast he was able to latch on, and the other breast he just didn't know how to. And like that one, I was getting like clogged milk ducts because your milk is producing at a fast pace and you're still regulating. So, I mean, there was a lot of information out there that I'm very, very grateful for her for sharing that. But in my scenario, I took that knowledge and applied it to my situation. But it doesn't necessarily mean that had my breast never produced as much as milk as I needed, or my son wasn't a good latcher, I think I would have not been able to do what I did. So I didn't formula feed because I was producing a lot of milk, and he's a big boy. He came out about almost 9 pounds. And so he had appetite and he, like I said, I had a hard time sleeping because he'd wake up in the middle of the night and wanted to feed constantly. So I was feeding on the clock, on demand. It was a challenge. But I think, moms who, I worked full time, and I worked a very high pressure job, and nothing in this world to motherhood. No, nothing. Like, I thought I was tired working like that job, and once I became a mom, I was like, oh my God, nothing in the world compares to the amount of work moms have to go through. Okay, what does your support system look like at home?
So I have my husband, and he helps. He helped a lot more with my daughter just because we were doing formula, so we kind of got to switch off and trade off a little more with eating and waking up. But with my son, I mean, I'm breastfeeding pretty exclusively almost, except for the random middle of the night, like 4 a.m. when he's like, I'm hungry. My husband does that one for me because he's like, you breastfeed all day. I'll do this one, and he works all day. Well, for the most part, he gets home at like 4, so him a lot, takes care of our toddler a lot while I'm trying to breastfeed at night, and he's been making dinner. So because my son always wants to eat right when we're like, oh, let's go make dinner, and he's like, oh, me too.
No.
So he's been making dinner a lot, so that's been, just supportive just around like the house in general. And then I have, like my mom and his mom and his sisters. I don't have any sisters, but his sisters, they, always like to come over, or well, they did before all this corona stuff. They used to, come over and keep my daughter entertained for a while. So that's pretty much my support system.
Your support system. So that's good. So you have a solid support system where you can go, especially your husband, you can go like, hey, I need some time off. Can you, just take care of the kids for a second, and I need to have, I call it me time,
Yeah.
And whatever it is, whether you take a nap, you get your nails done, or you are coloring, whatever it is that you need to do, scrolling through social media, whatever it is, that can kind of give you a little like refresh or reboost or recharge. I think that's very important. I know a lot of moms, unfortunately, do not have that, especially single mothers or, just in general, mothers typically don't have that time. So I think that, and I spoke to, like I said, spoke to a handful of moms, and they pretty much, that contributes to like, what we call baby blues, postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, all of that. So when mothers, especially new moms, don't have that support system, they will kind of fall into that hole. And not necessarily all of them, but some do, and now that going through that, I kind of understand how that is possible. If you don't have that support, and everything is kind of just mounting on you, you're human, it's a matter of time for you to just kind of break down. So it's very important to have that support system. Even if it is just your mom, for example, or just your sister, or your mother-in-law, whatever it is, and you can kind of just say, hey, give me like 10 minutes, an hour, half an hour, whatever it is. You just need to kind of regroup, and, and that also works best for the kids too, because you're a happy mom and you're a healthy mom, and that's what's most important. What is the one advice you would give moms who are watching?
I would say just to trust your mama gut. Like, you're like connected to your child in so many ways. You like grow a human being, or even if, like you go through a surrogate or whatever, you're connected to this child, and you like mom's love for a kid is like just beyond anything else you can really compare it to. So if you have like a mom gut about something, like, hey, this isn't the best for my kid, or hey, something's wrong with my kid, or this person shouldn't be around my kid, or anything like that, I think you should always just trust your mom gut, because there's like, you have that connection with your kid, and you feel it. If you like think something's wrong with your kid, you feel it inside, like, okay, something is wrong, even if the doctor doesn't believe you, or your husband or whatever, like something is wrong, or oh, my kid doesn't like going to this person's house to play type deal, like they're more nervous around that person, so maybe don't force him to be around that person. Just trust your mommy gut and follow like your instincts. That's what I would say, and get sleep.
Yeah.
Get as much as you can.
Get as much sleep as you can. Yeah, that is a good point, because I do also believe in that. I always say mommy knows best. And sometimes I've heard a lot of moms have problems with their pediatricians. They would say, hey, something's wrong, and the pediatrician would sort of dismiss their concern, and then it leads into a bigger situation than when it was first initially addressed. So I always say if you have a, mommy instincts and then you understand that there's something wrong, perhaps it's usually like the pediatrician dismisses it or doesn't acknowledge it. I always say, like, go get a second opinion. Like, don't even just go get another pediatrician to because you are sounding the alarm and you are with your baby 24/7, so you know when your baby's behavior changes.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the last question. So thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate you taking your time to talk to me today. I enjoyed our conversation, and I do appreciate you just opening up and sharing with our the viewers, and just kind of giving me an insight on how it is to be a mom and your little adventure on motherhood. And I hope we kind of get to do more future collaborations.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. This was fun.
You're welcome.
Okay, so that was the interview that I did with Jessica from Babble Mama Babble. I will go ahead and link all of her social medias below and how you can touch with her and connect with her. It was such a great interview. Thank you again, Jessica, and thank you guys for watching. We'll see you soon.